Good evening and welcome to the Planning Commission regular meeting for May 24th, 2021, beginning at 7 p.m. We'll go ahead and start with roll call. Commissioner Rasmussen.
Commissioner Bigham.
Here.
Commissioner Fisher.
Here.
Commissioner Frazier.
Here.
Chair Kambata.
Here.
Commissioner Knable. Here. Commissioner Rasmussen. Here. Commissioner Wright.
Here.
Thank you.
Next item will be approval of the agenda. If there are no amendments or changes, I'll look for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve from Commissioner Frazier. Do we have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Fisher?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I'm sorry. All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Sorry, trying to get back to the regular way of doing things. Item 4 on our agenda is going to be public hearing. This is an opportunity for anyone in the audience or watching virtually to speak on behalf of an item that is not already on tonight's agenda. Anyone who would like to discuss a topic that's not already on tonight's agenda may approach the podium and state your name and address for the record. If you're attending tonight's meeting virtually, please address the Planning Commission in one of the two following ways. You may post a question using the Q&A option. If you post a question, we will state the question to the Planning Commission and staff, and we will address questions accordingly. Your second option would be to use the raise my hand option. If you wish to verbally ask a question, please test your device's microphone prior to selecting the raise my hand option to assure that you'll be heard. I'll then call on you by name and ask the question. Please understand that once the question has been asked, you will be muted. If you have a follow-up question, please reselect the raise my hand option to ask additional questions. With that, we will open public forum. Anyone wishing to speak on behalf of an item not already on tonight's agenda may do so. Okay, give it one more minute here, make sure no one's popping in online. All right, moving on. Item 5, Chair's explanation of the hearing process. The Planning Commission is a volunteer advisory group to the City Council. One of the Commission's functions is to hold public hearings and make recommendations on land use and zoning matters. The purpose of the public hearing is to provide an opportunity for each applicant and citizens to present information, ask questions, and express opinions. Since these proceedings are televised and recorded for the public record, anyone wishing to speak in person must step up to the podium and give their name and address before addressing the Commission. To provide testimony virtually, you may do so in one of two ways. Post a question using the Q&A option. Before posting a question, provide your name and address. I'll state the question to the Planning Commission and staff. We will address your questions accordingly. You may also use the raise my hand option if you wish to verbally ask a question. Please test your device's microphone prior to selecting the raise my hand option to assure that you'll be heard. I'll then call on you by name to ask the question. You must also provide your name and address for the public record. Please understand that once the question has been asked, you will be muted. If you have a follow-up question, please reselect the raise my hand option. Staff reports are prepared and provided to the applicant and Planning Commission in advance of the meeting. The first step in the hearing will be for staff to present a summary of the report. The applicant will then have an opportunity to briefly explain the proposal and provide additional information or comment. Anyone wanting to speak for or against the application will then be heard. Upon completion of the testimony, the hearing will be closed to public comment. The Planning Commission will then discuss and act on the matter. 2 complete agenda packets are available for viewing in the back table. Please do not remove these items. The agenda packet is also available for viewing on the City of Cottage Grove website. City Council will act on these items at their meeting on Wednesday, June 16th, 2021, which starts at 7 p.m. On to item 6, 6.1, North Star Sheets expansion, cases SP 2021-034 and PP 2021-034. With Mike Marosa presenting.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Tonight, before us, we have Opus Development Company's application for North Star Sheets, which is a preliminary plat and site plan approval. The applicant's requesting a preliminary plat to subdivide 4.52 acres from the existing 23.03 acre outlot A of the southeast industrial lot, or industrial park, excuse me. A site plan review is proposed for a 35,600 square foot addition to the existing manufacturing facility located at 7550 91st Street, and to construct an off-street parking lot. A little background on the case. In 2016, the City Council approved a concept plan for 2 office or warehouse buildings on the subject property. The subject property also had a railroad spur that would service this facility. Oops, excuse me. Pen's not working. There we go. There'll be a railroad spur that came in here as part of the concept plan that would give rail service to the 2 supporting uses. In addition, a conditional use permit was also issued for exterior storage. The property did move forward in 2018. The City Council approved a preliminary plat to create 4 lots of record, a site plan to construct a 161,100 square foot manufacturing building located on Lot 1, Block 1, as shown on your screen, the highlighted parcel. And the proposed site plan also included a future addition to the building, the rear of the building here. We'll be discussing that later during the presentation. And also a variance to permit dock doors adjacent to a public street, which is highlighted right here on the screen. It's also worth noting that 91st alcove, right here on this plat, and right here on the site plan, is a privately maintained roadway within a public roadway, or public right-of-way, which is important as we get into the plans here. We'll talk about that a little bit detail here in a few minutes. Once again, the tenant of the proposed building is North Star Sheets. North Star Sheets makes corrugated cardboard boxes. The majority of their product does come in via the rail line into the side of the building here. There's a picture of the site, rail cars coming to the facility here. The existing facility can hold up to 4 rail cars. And then the majority of the area on the screen here is material storage, and then fabrication of the boxes, and then shipping through the warehouse. It's worth noting that since 2018, the expansion of e-commerce, that the demand for their product has grown significantly, and that's why they're requesting this addition to address the growth that they've seen over the past couple of years. So as I previously mentioned, the applicant has requested a preliminary plat to create a new 4.5 acre lot from the existing 23.03 acre outlot A of the Southeast Industrial Park as highlighted on the screen. The proposed site plan has 2 components. There is a 35,600 square foot addition to the existing facility highlighted in red on the screen. I will highlight it. And then there is an 84 stall off-street parking facility on this adjacent to the property. It's also worth noting that the existing facility does have that rail access servicing it. And the applicant is proposing a second railroad spur. Currently there's a second one to be constructed at a later date. There'll be 2 rail cars, opportunity for 2 spurs to enter the building. In the event that second spur is added, they will be required to build a future rail turnaround pad right here to help alleviate some of the congestion of the cars and loading or for entering and exiting the facility. But that will be completed when that second spur is added. The proposed addition will be constructed of the same materials as the existing building. It will be the same height as the existing building as well. The proposed addition is mainly to address storage and for their product. As the majority of their product does come in via rail, with the proposed addition, they could be able to store up to 10 rail cars inside the facility. As you can see on the site plan in the lower right-hand corner, there is an existing rail spur that is entering this facility now, and in the future, there'll be another rail spur here. And then the rest of the facility would be used for storage. Due to this proposal is mainly for storage, there's no increase in parking as part of this application. However, during the previous approvals, there was a proof of parking plan approved of 85 stalls in the rear of the building, highlighted here. And then the existing lot in the front of the building has 59 stalls. So there is ample parking on site for the support the current use and the growth anticipated with this proposed addition. All right, the off-street parking accessory use. The applicant is proposing to construct an 84 stall semi-trailer parking lot. The curb cuts into the site are 75 feet wide. They're very wide to allow maneuverability into the site. from the semis. The standard dimensions are 55 feet long by 22 feet wide, and each one of them will have a concrete dolly pad in here. I'll highlight it on the screen, or the dolly pad is each row or each stall will have one of these. This is to assist when the storage containers are sitting there, they don't compress into or damage the pavement. And in addition, the applicant is proposing an 87.2 foot setback from the western property line. Ordinance in this zoning district permits a 10-foot setback. However, the applicant is proposing 87.2 to preserve a lot of the vegetation in this area for natural screening. As part of this application, the applicant is proposing a sidewalk extension along 91st, which is highlighted in orange on the screen. And since this parcel is not connected to the parent parcel, it is subdivided or is separate by the right-of-way. The ordinance does not allow for off-street parking uses that are not on the same parcel as the principal use. And because that right-of-way is there, we do have to look at it in a different perspective. We did work with our city attorney on this and try to figure out a way we could tie the two uses together without vacating the right-of-way and creating, conjoining the two parcels. And the way we came up with is restrictive covenants, which will connect the two parcels. The restrictive covenants will be required to be recorded along with the final plat. And the restrictive covenants, what pretty much we'll do is say is that the principal use and this use on this subject lot here are tied together, that they are allowed via the restrictive covenants, and the restrictive covenants carries with the land and with the user on lot 1, block 1. Tree preservation and landscaping. The applicant did submit a detailed landscaping plan. There is 1,902 caliper inches of qualifying trees on site. And the applicant's requesting to remove 1,194.5 caliper inches of the quality trees. By right, the applicant removed 60% of the trees, or 1,142 caliper inches without removal, or without replacement, excuse me. With that said, there is a mitigation required. 52 inches is required to be mitigated at a 1/2 replacement, or about 26 caliper inches, or 11 2-inch trees. As part of this application, the applicant is proposing to plant 31 trees, 17 overstory and 14 coniferous trees, plus 51 shrubs, as shown on the landscaping plan in the right-hand corner. That number does not include the 11 additional tree mitigation caliper inches. Those trees will be used to fill in gaps after the landscaping has been planted on site. So it's just another safeguard to make sure that the site has appropriate screening from the adjacent Hamlet Park. In addition, in 2018, the City Council approved a tree mitigation agreement. Prior to development on the parcel, there was significant tree removal, and a tree mitigation agreement was agreed to by the property owners and the City Council of $64,000 and $64,054 and cash in lieu of replacement. The trigger for that $64,000 payment was a building permit on Outlot A. The proposal in front of us tonight does not require a building permit. However, the applicant has committed to paying $20,000 of that money to the city to help do tree mitigation funds to utilize by the city to add screening and habitat restoration in this area here on the screen, which is on the Hamlet Park piece. And then the remaining $44,054 would be paid to the city when Outlot A develops. There's two motions on the table for tonight, one for preliminary plat, one for site plan review. We do, upon request from our city attorney, we would do want to amend condition 2 to read as follows. The lot must remain in common ownership, and the parking lot of lot 1, block 1, Southeast Industrial Park, second edition, shall only be used as an accessory use to improve lot 1, block 1 of the Southeast Industrial Park. That is a revision. We're striking the current condition and replacing with this one here per our request of our city attorney. That completes my my presentation for tonight, and the applicant is here for any questions.
Thank you, sir. Questions from the commission for staff? Thank you, sir. At this time, if the applicant would like to add anything, they may do so.
Good evening, Commissioner Chair, members of the commission. My name is Phil Catnaw with Opus Development Company, address 10350 Bren Road West, Minnetonka. For starters, it's wonderful to be here tonight and actually in person. As much as the Zoom meetings are fun, it's nice to see people again and not have my glasses fog up as I'm having my mask off. So with that, I guess certainly wanted to take a moment to thank city staff for working with us on this application. It did have a couple of wrinkles that we were able to collaborate on. I think we found a really good solution. Obviously, we're thrilled to see, it hardly seems like we finished the building when they're already expanding. And it's wonderful to see, businesses continue to thrive here in the city of Cottage Grove. With that, certainly make myself available for any questions. I think staff did a very comprehensive job, and we're excited to continue this progress forward, as is our friends at North Star Sheets, to get some additional space that they can store product in. And we do look forward to continuing this process with the city.
Thank you, sir. Questions for the applicant?
Commissioner Bigham, I just have one question, and this might be a question too for our city staff. What the border, I'm looking at page 2, going back to the map with the city ball fields that I see there. Can you walk me through the, just an understanding of what our city owns, kind of in that shared space, and then where that walking path is around the park, just for a little bit more clarity?
Yes. Thank you for the question, Commissioner. So the city does own, delete that. The city's property is to the west of, oops, I apologize. It goes like this. To the west of that line is City Hamlet Park. The rest of it is privately owned. And the proposed access into the future ball fields here would come off of 91st. There'll be a parking lot here, an additional parking area over off the screen.
That was going to be my next question. Thank you.
Yeah.
So the walking path right now goes around the border of all 4 fields, as I see it. It would be to the, I suppose, west of the line that you drew?
Yep,
Okay.
that's correct.
Thank you. Additional questions for the, go ahead, Commissioner Frazier.
Mike, while you're up there, I guess I have a question for you about the second rail spur. There was some discussion about that potentially in the future, so that's not part of the plan now, correct?
That is correct, and maybe the applicant can provide a little bit more clarity on when that is anticipated.
And then if I could just ask you another, I'll certainly want to hear the answer, but when that second rail spur comes up, is that something that has to be reviewed by Planning Commission and City Council, or is that something that they can do without action from the city?
Yes, Commissioner, as part of this application tonight, we are approving that second railroad spur access as part of this application tonight. And so when it does go in the future, that does not need to come back forward through the process. And I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Commissioner, the reason for the decision for the second spur is really a function of the amount of roofs that we're creating to pull cars underneath. The operational need from North Star Sheets is to get an entire rail car, if you will, segment in there. So currently we can have 4, the spur goes into the existing building for 4 cars. This next one will allow for 3 additional cars to come in on that same kind of alignment with the spur. And then there'll be a second spur that'll have another 3 that gets you to a total of 10. And the timing on that is really a function of North Star Sheets is looking at just their operational commitment. They want to provide all the infrastructure for it. And then as their cash flow needs get to the point where they can go ahead and get that second spur in, we could be back here. Well, we necessarily won't be back here, but that could happen in a pretty short duration period of time. And really, macro topic, I mean, supply chain logistics, I think, has been strained, and we've seen where the pinch points are due to the pandemic. This is one of them. Getting cars and getting their raw inventory in via rail so it can go out over road is important. This is a strategic move for them just to build a little bit more capacity in their rolling stock coming in. So that's the long-winded way as to why there's 2 spurs going in. The spurs themselves, though, to be precise, is it'll just be a side switch that'll come in. You would not see the second spur, for all intents and purposes, but for on the North Star Sheets property That spur is going to take place right about at the northern edge of their property line.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Question from Commissioner Rasmussen?
I've got a quick question regarding the trailer parking area and how it abuts to Hamlet Park. It appears there's quite a few trees and natural screening there, and I believe I heard you're adding quite a few more. Is there going to be a need, or is there currently a fence surrounding that property? Is there any concern with traffic in the park, hanging out in the parking lot, or is there I don't know if there's a need for a fence. I'm just curious if there's going to be one there.
Yes, Commissioner, we've had discussions about a fence or other mechanisms of screening the parking lot. So we did just talk to the applicant and decide that a landscape screen would be the best. However, per the conditions of approval, if the applicant does wish to put a fence in, it has to be decorative in nature, vinyl coat, chain link, something to kind of match into the surrounding, aesthetically pleasing, I should say. If it does become a problem, so there's a condition that addresses that. But as to start with, right now, the goal is just to do landscape screening. I don't know if the applicant has anything to add.
Very well said. I think our primary strategy was not only by enhancing that setback, but trying to maintain as much of the mature trees as we can while also operationally providing for that rolling stock capacity that we have for the off-street parking. At this point, we felt we'd rather invest the money in trees that have a benefit as opposed to putting up a fence that somebody can hop a fence if they really want to get in there. I don't think it's going to be terribly exciting with a bunch of trailers in there, but we appreciate and we do want to be sensitive towards, making sure that it doesn't become an area of problem.
Thank you.
I had one more question for the applicant regarding the location of the existing vegetation and the proposed trees and shrubs. Is that elevation equal to or above the elevation for the finished parking lot? Is this going to act as kind of a berm in addition to natural screening, or is it really the natural screening doing most of the work?
There was a cut section, I think, in our application that just shows some of the sight lines that we tried to show graphically. I don't know if that actually made it into the staff report, but the idea was to really utilize, the topography on Hamlet Park versus where the parking lot is the parking lot will sit higher. That vegetative screening, along with that setback that we have there, we believe is going to provide not a solid vegetative screening such that you're not going to be able to see much in the way of those trucks. And then we're also enhancing it by putting in evergreens that are going to provide year-round protection, even during the winter months, although I don't know how heavily used the softball games are in the winter.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I also had one more question too, just about the trucking area. Do you plan on keeping, 86 trucks there at all times? Or, what are you going to have all those trucks parked there for? The storage of materials?
Excellent question, Commissioner. I think what ends up happening is it's not a perfect mathematical situation where you get an X rail cars and X number of trucks go out right away. It's really going to be more just-in-time delivery dependent, as well as when orders come in. They tend to bring in more rolling stock than they can push out via over road. Therefore, that's why they need the additional capacity. So there will be windows of time when it will build up, but I don't think it's safe or I wouldn't want to make the representation that you're constantly going to see 86 trucks there on a daily basis. And truth be told, the math that you see here is really just maximizing what we felt was prudent to create the storage capacity. In a perfect world, North Star Sheets would like to have the flex of 100 to hit some of the peak times during the holidays. This was kind of the best the geographic boundaries of this lot would provide for, while also being sensitive towards the adjacencies to the park.
So with that outlot then and the additional rail spur in the future, is that something the supply chain is going to be able to keep up with for, the work you guys are doing? And is that needed right away?
So long-term, and I don't want to make a commitment for them, but the vision is that the building that engages the rail spur is their core business. And the more that they can continue to expand on the existing building that they have at Lot 1 that is there today with this expansion, as well as there will be likely additional expansion on the building at some point for additional storage capacity, that's going to enable this off-street parking to provide for the logistical support that's going to be requisite once they're at full capacity under roof.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Looks like we're all good here. If there are no further questions from the commission, we'll open this up for a public hearing. Okay. Before we go ahead and open the public hearing, I just want to reiterate, we've got, for those not in physical attendance today, we've got one of two ways to speak on behalf or against an application. You may use the Q&A option. If you post a question, I'll ask the question to the planning commission and staff, and we'll address the questions accordingly. You may use the raise my hand option if you wish to verbally ask a question. Please check your device's microphone prior to selecting the raise my hand option to assure that you'll be heard. I'll then call on you by name to ask the question. Please understand that once the question is asked, you'll be muted. If you have follow-up questions, please reselect the raise my hand option. And again, anyone wishing to speak for or against the application must state their name and address for the record. With that, we'll go ahead and open public hearing. And we will close public hearing. Further comment from the commission? I'm pretty excited about the rapid growth that we've seen with North Star Sheets. It was not very long ago that the initial application came through here. So much like you said, being able to come back here, you know, the building's barely up and they're already needing to expand. I like to see that you guys are maximizing the space in the trailer parking lot, kind of thinking long-term, especially with how quickly we had to come back and look to expansion again here. So I like to see that there was, you know, some foresight kind of built into this application. If there's no further comment, I guess I'd look for a motion.
I make a motion to approve the preliminary plat and the site plan, subject to the conditions in the staff report with the amended recommendation number 2 that was noted.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
I have a second from Commissioner Rasmussen. Further comment from the commissioners? All right, with that, I'll look for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. On to item 6.2, Xcel Regulator Youth Service Bureau, case CUP 2021-036, with Sam Burns presenting.
All right, good evening, Commissioners. So this evening, the second item on our agenda is a joint application with the Youth Services Bureau and the Xcel Energy, applying for a conditional use permit on the Youth Services Bureau's property. So the location is at 7064 West Point Douglas Road, just a little bit southeast of the intersection of 80th and Highway 61. So currently, Xcel is looking to put a regulator on the Youth Services Bureau property. Xcel is currently undergoing a process of replacing and upgrading their infrastructure in the Southeast Metro. So as you see here, this map displays the current line that runs adjacent to Highway 61 and some of the infrastructure projects that are going on. If the commissioners will remember, earlier this year, Xcel had a similar application for a regulator station. So the site itself that's owned by the Youth Services Bureau is zoned planned business, which allows for utilities and services with a conditional use permit. The highlighted in yellow section of the property will be where the regulator station will actually be built, kind of sandwiched on the southeast portion between Highway 61 and West Point Douglas. As you can see, there's a good amount of distance between the offices of the Youth Services Bureau and the proposed regulator station site. The regulator station will not take up that entire highlighted area. Beyond specifics of where exactly it'll be placed are a little bit more of an engineering question, certainly, but it will be on the far southeastern tip, certainly, away from the parking lot. So as a part of this, Xcel Energy has proposed some screening out of a composite material that would not require regular maintenance. And there's also a fairly significant height difference of 5 to 10 feet between Highway 61 and the actual location of the parcel. Xcel estimates that that the site will generate about 2 trips a year in terms of maintenance on the actual regulator station itself. I'm not entirely sure how many of you are familiar with the regulator stations, but it's really just some pipes sticking out of the ground and some equipment. So the screening provided by Xcel would certainly be welcome. Part of the stipulations for the conditional use permit that we've included as staff has been that if the lot redevelops or is sold, Xcel will be responsible for any landscaping that needs to be done at the request of the current owner of the parcel or any future buyer that may take place, that may buy the parcel. That's it. Here's our staff recommendation. Xcel and Youth Services Bureau, neither of them are here, but I will do my best certainly to field some questions. Oh, I'm sorry, Xcel's here. I'm sorry, I should have checked. You snuck in. But yeah, certainly this, be able to field some questions. But yeah, that's really it so far.
All right, thank you, sir. Do we have any questions for staff? Commissioner Rasmussen?
This may be better for the applicant, but similar to the last regulator station we looked at, the same companies and everything, I'm assuming the fence and the screening are going to look the same, so it's some sort of consistency up and down this pipeline. Are the columns, the fencing, all going to be pretty consistent with our other regulator stations in town?
Yep, if the applicant would like to add anything, they may.
Good evening, I'm Brian Sullivan, Xcel Energy, 414 Nicollet Mall, Minneapolis, Minnesota. To answer your question, yes, the columns and the fencing, we're going to use the same material so they'll be consistent in how they look. The alignment at the other parcel, there, instead of being a continuous fence, the fence actually kind of wraps around the individual components, so it's going to have a little bit different look. But because of the sight lines that are present on this site, we decided to go with a solid fence all the way around to wrap around it. But otherwise, it's the same material all the way through there.
All right, thank you. Additional questions?
I have a question. With the proximity to the highway, will that fencing provide any sort of protection if, say, a vehicle goes off the highway and into the station? It's concerning to me that it's so close to Highway 61 right there.
So what on the interior of that fence, there's actually bollards with steel piping in between them that's constructed to help protect the piping that's above grade there. So that's the plan anyway. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher.
Commissioner Wright, what's the timeline that you're looking at for this to actually be built up and all that?
So I don't know if you've been down that part of the world lately, but if you go down to the south end of Jamaica or just south of Jamaica and West Point Douglas Road, a half mile or so, they're starting the project. So
Yeah.
this will be in August, September is when they plan to build this, and the whole project should be done. It has to be done before heating season, so.
Yeah. I hear that's important here.
October 15th is when they're supposed to have this
Okay.
segment of the project done, and then there's another phase that starts north of that goes through St. Paul Park, that goes up through Newport for next year.
Will that specific part interfere with the Youth Service Bureau operation much, or I don't, it's not a huge building or anything like that, but
No, so the project we're building is they call it the transmission line, so it's a big pipe. And what the regulator station does is it actually reduces the volume in the larger pipe down to a pressure that can be used by the businesses and homes in the area there. And so what's what works out well for this site here is that we can continue the, using the old line until the very end, and then there's a time where they have to switch it over, and that, I'm not sure how long it takes, a day or so, but they coordinate it all so that, so people aren't out of gas or fuel for any extended period of time.
Cool. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, sir. Okay, with that, seeing no further comment from the commission, we will open this for public hearing. Again, you've got, if you're not in physical attendance, you've got one of two ways to participate. You can use the Q&A option or the raise my hand option. And with that, we'll open public hearing. And we will, seeing no comment, close public hearing. Commissioner Fisher, good call on asking that question. That was burning in my mind. You know, building the regulator station between two roadways. So I'm glad that we got that out of the way. Otherwise, I think everything looked pretty consistent with the other application that we saw further up the line. Any other questions or comment from the commission? Seeing none, I would look for a motion.
Motion to approve the CUP 2021-034, subject to conditions and staff report.
We have a motion to approve, subject to the conditions stipulated in the staff report from Commissioner Rasmussen. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second from Commissioner Wright. Further discussion? Seeing none, I will move to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. On to item 6.3, Pine Harbor Church, case SP 2021-038, with Emily Schmitz presenting.
All right, we're good to go. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. I just have to say it's so nice to see all of your faces, actually, finally. It's been a strange year, but it's nice to be back, getting back to a little bit of normalcy. So finally, last but not least, the final application on your agenda this evening is an application from Pine Harbor Church for a site plan. They are proposing to move in a 9,800 square foot modular structure to their site located at 11125 West Point Douglas Road, which, if you're not familiar, is just south of the River Acres Golf Course. Pine Coulee neighborhood is down here, and then, of course, 61 is right in their front yard. Just a little bit of history on the church. The original approval was received sometime around 1983. I believe at that time it was the Jubilee Church. An addition was approved and constructed in 1993, which on the site plan in front of you there, it's called the Discovery Center. So that added their daycare services as well as the Pine Harbor Academy at that time as well. So as I've noted, 3 programs are conducted out of this particular property. The kids care, the daycare, Pine Harbor Academy, as well as, of course, the Harbor Church. As I had indicated, the proposal this evening is to move a 9,800 square foot modular structure onto the site. The applicant has indicated quite the increase in enrollment within their academy, as well as the kids' care daycare as well. So they're sort of bursting at the seams, trying to come up with some sort of plan to add some additional space to their operations. And this just so happened to work for them on a financial level, as opposed to adding on to the building. So they came across this particular structure, which is currently in the Anoka Hennepin School District. They've been using it. Their lease is up. They don't have a need for this particular space anymore. So it just so happened that it would work to bring that structure to the Pine Harbor site and use it as some additional classrooms. I believe there's 4 classrooms, 2 theater rooms, 2 offices, and then, of course, an additional set of restrooms. They are proposing to come just off the south, I guess you could call it the southeast corner maybe, of the Discovery Center, so where they have their current activities. It would, of course, flow on the site and be easy access for those students using the additional classrooms. The current structure where it sits now has some different exterior materials that do have to be removed prior to the structure being dismantled and moved to this site. So the applicant is proposing to install just a hardy siding that would be painted to match the color of the existing building on the site, which is more of a stucco finish that was approved, of course, in the 1993, so it would blend well on the site. Mechanical units are proposed to be on the rooftop. There is quite the mature buffer of trees along Highway 61 currently. If you're not familiar, my next slide does have a good image, but a handful of those trees do need to be removed, but I think the existing trees will provide quite a good visual screening of those mechanical units. The applicant is proposing to also paint those units, so they'll blend real well with the roof and then the exterior materials. Septic approval, review and approval, I guess I should say, to ensure that the existing septic can support the additional classrooms. I'm not a septic professional, but I know that our applicant is working with a licensed septic contractor as well as Washington County to make sure that if there are any upgrades that need to happen, they most certainly will do those. So that will be required as a part of the building permit application. And then I just wanted to make note that no additional parking is required as a part of this request. In 1993, they kind of, for lack of a better way to put it, overdid it. They have plenty of parking per our minimum standards on the site. So as I kind of had alluded to with the landscape, there's quite a mature grove, maybe I'll call it, of some coniferous trees just on the other side, kind of in the same exact location where they're proposing to put the actual building. So a handful of those trees do have to come down, so some replacement will be required. The applicant is proposing to continue to maintain that screening along 61 with some installation of additional coniferous trees. And then on the south property line, some maple trees, again, to fill in those gaps and provide that screening and that mitigation. And then I just wanted to make note they are proposing to install some landscaping around the building itself once it's set in place. As a part of the building permit, staff will require that a landscape plan be submitted. We'll take a look at it and make sure that everything looks good. And finally, I just wanted to make note of just two of the conditions that I've placed on the proposal. One is that we will require the applicant to come back through. They're kind of on a time crunch with the moving of the building. They don't need it to be moved to one place, stored, and then moved again. So we said, let's work with you and we'll put some conditions on this approval. Again, one being that the parcel be platted, which cleans up the right-of-way. So currently, as you can see, this is the existing technical property line of the Pine Harbor Church, which extends far out into Highway 61. So as a part of replatting, we just want to clean that up and make sure that that property line is dedicating the appropriate right-of-way to MnDOT for Highway 61. And then the second condition that I just wanted to note was the access agreement with the city. So Pine Harbor accesses off of 61 and comes right through the River Acres parcel owned by the city. So we just want to make sure, I will say, we did do some deep diving to see if we could find some sort of access agreement. If, historically, we could not find anything. So as a part of the planning process, we'll just make sure that we've got an agreement that says, yep, we, the city, understand that you are using our property to essentially access your parcel, just to make sure that it's recorded against both of those parcels. And with that, I will leave the recommendation before you. Staff is available for any questions, and I know Scott is here as well from Pine Harbor Church to field any additional questions.
Thank you very much. Additional questions from the commission? There you go. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yep, I just have one question. So when, so this is a temporary structure essentially. So when we're talking about septic and, grading the land, what is the long-term effect of doing that? Is the intent for them knowing that they're going to expand and then they're probably going to build a permanent structure? How does that work?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Bingham, technically it's actually a permanent structure. It is. Yep, I know when you say modular structure, it sounds like it'll come and go, but technically it will be permanent on the foundation and meeting building code, all of those things.
Thank you. That answered my question.
Got a quick question.
Commissioner Rasmussen?
Regarding the temporary structure, I guess understanding that it is permanent, how does it, when severe weather, we got a lot of children and so forth in there, is it How does that work? Do we shuffle the kids inside when the alarms sound, or is this structure capable of holding up to severe weather? I guess that's my,
Good evening. Thank you for having me here today. Scott Urban from the Harbor Church and Pine Harbor Christian Academy and the Kids Care Center. Do you want the address? 11125 West Point Douglas Road. So, this is when you're thinking of a modular structure, it is a real school. We went and looked at it, and we were amazed by the size. This will have high efficiency rooftop heating and air. This is in all means a permanent structure. The only reason the Anoka Hennepin is moving it out is because they had that at a art magnet, and they created a wing for these classrooms, and now they're going to put a gymnasium there. So they wanted multiple levels for their rooming. So we will not need to move kids when the sound alarms or anything like that. So.
Thank you. Did you have any additional comment on the application in general?
Yes, I just really feel, this year has been an amazing year. At Pine Harbor, we've been able to go to school full-time all year. And the daycare and at Kids Care has been going on strong from when we all thought this would be over in 6 weeks. So we've been carrying on. And so with the restrictions and mitigation processes, we've had to eliminate those common use rooms. So now, which we were really utilizing every nook and cranny, now it's like, oh, we have to clean that, do this, do that. So we're at the point where we're having services out in the hall and trying to coordinate different uses and different schedules, because Tuesday is art, and so music has to be over here, and it's just really getting to the point where we're ready to bust at the seams. Also, with the continued growth, this was just not this year. This has been systematically over time. We've currently been growing the last 5-6 years because we went back to a traditional middle school, and each year more kids stick through the school. So, in regards to the septic and field, we're doing all that, and we're going to make sure every flush goes to the right spot.
All right, thank you. Additional questions or comment?
I had a question for staff, just real quick, just about the removal of the trees. Is there any tree mitigation costs going into this, or are they required to replace a certain amount?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Knable, so they're proposing to replace on the site. If I'm remembering correctly, I think it's 130 inches, something around that number, but they are replacing on site along Highway 61 and then the north, or the south property line as well.
So in, being site plan review, the subsequent application would spell those out more clearly? When they came back with come back with the follow-up application, that will identify that more clearly?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, it's outlined quite clearly in the
Okay.
staff report. Let me just pull it out here and I can tell you the exact inches. Yep, so required to replace 130 inches, which they're proposing to do on site, so there'll be no fee in lieu of mitigation. I think maybe that clarifies Mr. Knable's question.
Thank you. Follow-up questions or comment? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and open public hearing on this matter. Again, for anyone not physically in attendance, you may use the Q&A option or the raise my hand option to address the commission. With that, public hearing is open. I'll give it one more second here, and then if no one pops up online, we'll close it out. All right, public hearing is closed. Follow-up questions or comment? With that, I'll look for a motion.
I'd motion to approve the site plan 2021-038, subject to the staff report.
Thank you, sir. So we have a motion to approve from Commissioner Rasmussen. Second?
Second from Commissioner Bigham.
Second from Commissioner Bigham. Further conversation?
I think it's great seeing their program and school expanding and offering additional childcare and schooling for our community.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
Have to expand. Darn it.
having a big parking lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the face of adversity to be seeing this kind of growth and success in your program is wonderful. With that, I think we'll go for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. On to item 6.4, TNT Fireworks Tent at Walmart, case ICUP 2021-041. This applicant withdrew their application, so no action is needed by the commission at this time. That'll conclude our applications for this evening. On to item 7, approval of Planning Commission minutes for April 26th, 2021. If there are no amendments or changes that are requested, I would look for a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Frazier. Do we have a second?
Second from Commissioner Bigham.
Second from Commissioner Bigham.
Probably don't have to say that anymore.
And again, no further comment?
I wasn't
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. On to agenda item 8, reports. 8.1, recap of May City Council meetings with Ben Boyke presenting.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and as Ms. Schmitz, if I could talk, stated, it's great to be back in person, great to see you guys' faces again, kind of getting back to the new normal, so happy to be here tonight. So at the May 5th, 2021 council meeting, the only related item was the appointment of Mr. Jarrett Wright back on the commission, so welcome back, we're happy to have you.
Thank you.
And then looking at the May 19th council agenda, we had a number of items on the agenda, including approval of the accessory apartment variance for 10176 East Point Douglas Road. We also had the Hawthorne Pines final plat, which I think time coming through this body was Sullivan Pines or Pastavat Pines. It's had a couple names. Anyways, the very far northwest corner of the community up by Oltman Middle School there, the single family project up there, which I think if you've been up there, you've noticed that some work's being done already in terms of grading. We also had the 3 items from last month on the agenda. The Settlers Bluff preliminary plat was approved 5-0. The Apadon apartment development on Hardwood and Harkness was approved by a 3-2 vote. And the Hinton Woods subdivision or development was approved with a 5-0 vote by council. So with that, I'm going to turn it to Councilmember Dennis for his updates.
Well, thank you, Director Boyk. You always do a nice job of highlighting those details for us. Welcome back, everybody. It's great to see everyone tonight, as has been mentioned several times. It's wonderful to resume living, and it's been way too long as far as I'm concerned. And I know for some, like Commissioner Fisher, this is the first chance she's had to be in a room with everybody. So it's a wonderful thing. So a couple things for you tonight. First and foremost is next Monday, which will be Memorial Day. We're going to be having right outside this window our Memorial Day ceremony. That's at 1 o'clock on Monday. And I have been the organizer and MC of this for a number of years. I'll do it one more time. This is going to be a really good event, especially considering we did not have a chance to do it last year. So it's an opportunity to get the community together and do it for an amazing reason, which is to pay our respects and also have gratitude. So we're definitely looking forward to that. Last but not least, I want to offer myself and make myself more available to you. One of the things that we learned at the last meeting, and this is something that Ben and I have talked about, Mayor Bailey and I have talked about Tony and I have talked about. There are times when I am the senior individual in the room as far as time in service or connectivity to the city, which, believe it or not, goes all the way back to about 1993. But I may have historical details or context or other bits of information that I can provide. And what I want you to do is feel free to utilize me. I don't sit here just to come in and support the event that we do, which I do obviously, but I want to be able to add additional things to it if needed. So one thing that I will never do, and I'll make this very clear and transparent to the community, is I will never instruct anyone how to vote. But if you have a question or maybe want to have a clarity as far as maybe how does the council view something, or what have we worked on in our strategic planning or designs, I would be very happy to provide those details for you in real time, if I can, to make a difference, to help you to make an informed choice. So that's what I have, and if there's anything else you may want of me, as I always like to do, I make myself available for questions.
Thank you, sir. Questions or comment for the council member? Go ahead.
Councilmember, I'm Dennis. I'm thankful you brought that up, because I think Tony and I have been on here, and I think Derek is probably the one who's been on here the longest. But we hear about sometimes where council does these strategic planning commissions on these applications before they even get to us. But that's usually about all we get, about council held this meeting and now let's go ahead and vote on it. So it would be interesting to hear kind of what happens at that meeting, kind of what the general sense was. Was there any changes that kind of took place based on that from the time that meeting was held to the time it comes to our desk for the review? So I want to thank you for pointing that out, because that is something that we've heard before, but we don't hear what actually happens there, so.
Right, so you might be referring to some workshops that we may have, and workshops are always open to the public too, generally speaking. So, yeah, I'm available should you have any of those questions or want to reference. I mean, I'll certainly give you the very best information that I can and try to do it in a way that makes sense, applicable to the circumstance that we have. And then I do want to also mention, Mr. Wright, welcome back. Jarrett, as you know, was here with us for a while before, went away on a deployment to serve the country, which we're very appreciative and grateful for what he did. And so when I knew we had the opening, I thought, who better than to bring back a great guy who has been with us before for a while and did excellent work. And I actually reached out to you while you were still deployed.
Yeah.
And so his commitment to service was an immediate, yes, I'd love to come back and be part of this. So thank you much.
It was in the back of my head, so I enjoyed being a part of the process and, seeing.
And we all enjoy having you here, so.
Yeah, appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next item, response to Planning Commission inquiries. I don't believe we had any last meeting. And item 8.3, Planning Commission requests. Any requests of council or staff? Commissioner Rasmussen?
I guess I just have one question out of curiosity. The TNT fireworks that was withdrawn this month, I believe they've been in our community for several years, doing business maybe at Cub Foods or another location. Are they going to continue at their other location, or are they leaving the community, or?
So, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Rasmussen, they actually do have an ICUP approval for Walmart already. It was just missed on our part. I don't think they were there last year, but they had a 5-year approval that's good, I believe, through 2022 or 3? 22. In addition to Cub Foods, I'm not sure if it was TNT or another application, but yes.
All right. Good to know. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. If there are no further inquiries, I think we can move on to item 9. Can I get a motion on the issue of adjourning? Is there
Motion
a
to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn from Commissioner Wright. Do we have a second?
Second from Commissioner
Second
Knable.
from Commissioner Knable. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, everyone, for your time tonight.